the intention was to find somebody who would be able to just exist with us for 2 months and have the real feelings that Owen, the character, would really have. Like, why are we doing this? This is a waste of my time. Like, this is stupid. Because eventually, as the movie goes on, that's all that his character is expressing, which is very much in line with how the real Owen really felt. Because, I mean, a lot of those two big blow-ups that he has, like, none of them are scripted. He's just, I mean, obviously he knows that he's performing, but they're coming from a very real place. Yeah. Like, that's exactly how he feels. So.
Was that a dynamic you used in Nirvana as well?
It's the exact same.
So you just
even with people who don't know they're on camera with us, we do that same trick. You approach people on their level, like where because you know what somebody's going to say before you talk to them normally. Like, so say those kids at the very beginning of the film, when we went up to them, we knew they were excited about making a movie, and we knew that they were enamored because they saw that we had cameras too, and they thought, oh wow. So you knew that they were going to want to talk to us about it. So long as you don't bring your agenda to them, people will normally say whatever it is that they're going to say, and they'll normally say it perfectly. Like, they'll act better than you could ever tell somebody to act, because that's just how they are. So long as you give them that space to do that, and then you try to twist it with whatever plot it is that you're trying to put into it, you can get away with murder.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. That's exactly what we did with Owen. Like, we would get to these points, and whenever he would do something real or bring something that seemed very genuine, we would just roll on that, and the scene would change to whatever he was reacting to.
And Owen was a godsend, because we couldn't find, like, this movie literally was on the shelf for a year because we had auditioned like 100 guys, and we couldn't find the right guy to sort of bounce off of Matt. Jay, who had done it in Nirvana the band, he looked too old.
Yeah.
And we could pass Matt off as a high school student, but we couldn't pass off Matt and Jay. And so by finding Owen, who actually looks even younger, it makes Matt look younger.
Yep.
Which really helped us. And it was a gift that Matt called me one day. He's like, I found him. I found the guy. There's this guy, Owen.
And he sounds like me. That was the pitch. The other producer, Evan Morgan, is his best friend. And he said, there's this guy I know, he's a teacher, but he sounds so much like you. I've always thought that. And then I met him, and I was like, oh, he's perfect. And we just cast him with no audition, nothing. And we started shooting the movie.
But we had you guys hang out for
6 months
lot of time.
I got him a job teaching where I was teaching at the Ontario Science Centre. And so he and I would hang out at work for, 8 hours a day for 4 or 5 months, just to try to learn the same inside jokes. Same inside jokes is very important to us because it's good shorthand.
I'm still trying to figure them out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So is this like an approach that you would use moving forward, like non-actors, 6-month immersion therapy?
I don't know. This next film we want to make with Owen again, but it takes place in the 1960s. So we're doing all the same tricks, but the approach is very different because, like, we can't just walk down the street and find random people and put them in the movie without them knowing. Like, it needs to be very specific. It all takes place between like the CIA and NASA bases in Cape Canaveral and Houston. So we're doing all the same things with real people, with real scientists, with like adults at their job, and us approaching them as though we're approaching them in the world of a documentary. But we just need to be a bit more careful about it. But we're excited about it. We think that's a very interesting challenge, to try to make a found footage film all in the 1960s, but in the modern day. Like, because if we can pull it off, it'll, I think, be very compelling to watch.
Yeah.
Because you won't know, because in as much as in the Dirties, you don't know what's real and what's not real, that layer is going to be even thicker and more robust if the entire world is 1968.
And I always rather work with non-actors than real, like, unless you have, like Clooney and Streep, like, I think that in-between world of low-budget filmmaking and acting, it's, I rather work with real people who just are very natural.
And patient. People who are patient, who are willing to do,
and who don't have takes. Like tricks and tools and methods, because unless those are like really honed, if you've really honed in on them and you're amazing, which there are a lot of amazing actors, but they're few and far between. And so I think, just real people who have that ability to be themselves on camera are far more interesting.
Because the worst thing you can get, we find, is the actor who is still trying to prove themselves as an actor, and that is very much in their head whenever they're in a scene or in a moment. they're very much trying to, get at the emotion of the scene, or get at the beats of the scene, or explicate, not in an overt way like you would in the theater, but explicate in some way to camera that they think is going to be helping the filmmaking process, when that's the exact opposite of the kinds of films that we want to make. The exact opposite. We want to do films where the explication is completely invisible.
Which is really tricky in this method because there's no script. So there's the structure and the skeleton, the bones, but if you get somebody in there who just wants to hear themselves talk and has a lot to say, that's like...
Or has ideas for the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking for empty vessels.
Yeah, we're looking for people who are just going to be there reacting to whatever is happening, and when we don't even know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it. I have no idea. And maybe I say something that is catchy or makes the crew react in a certain way, and we need other people on camera who aren't going to either laugh at that or try to turn that into something, but just be in that moment. Or if an old man walks up to us and asks us what happened, like, they're not going to freak out and say, "Oh, I just got hit by a rock." That's what you like. It's not. It happens in a totally organic way, where they're just there, which is in one sense very, very easy to do, because you get people who don't care on camera. You don't need to give any directions. Everybody just sort of does their thing. But it's also very hard, because peeling down the ego of most people on camera is next to impossible. For me too, it's really hard.
But the coolest thing to watch on set, like when we're working, is because Matt's almost always on camera in the scene, and to watch him direct from within the scene just by saying shit that he knows how people will react, or he hopes and thinks that they're going to react in a certain way. So he'll have an idea and he'll just run with it simply by, in character, saying something that would get Owen or whoever, or usually like the people who didn't know that they were on camera when we shot. Like, if you watch that first scene of the movie with those two kids, they just happened to be in the park. It was like this incredible serendipitous moment, and he went up to them, and the way he engages them and invites them into the scene is amazing, and like it's a gift and a talent that not everybody, I think, could do. And like the movie wasn't directed in a traditional sense, but it was directed from inside the scene a lot of the times, in the moment, just like taking the situation, staying in character, and running with it. And I think that's quite a talent, man.
Oh, thank you. Well, most people didn't even know I was
exactly
in charge of making the movie at all.
Exactly.
Especially when we were in schools. I was just, because the goal was to make everybody think we were just high school students. Yeah. So we would be shooting with this huge cafeteria, all of extras, so to speak, from that school, who were like, okay, we're going to be in a movie. But nobody knew that I was, going to be deciding what was going to happen. And nobody knew that Owen was like a major part of it. So we would just be in these rooms with everybody kind of waiting for something to happen. And in that waiting, we would shoot the scenes. So in the classrooms, when everybody was waiting, we would shoot the scenes. When everybody was kind of waiting for the real movie to start, is when we would shoot our movie, which is very small and takes place between two characters, whispering mostly. And that's sort of, that was our approach on this, and it's definitely going to be our approach with this next film, just because it's so cool. So cool.
And part of the trick also is using like no crew, tiny cameras. There were like 3 people there.
And wireless microphones.
Yeah.
So nobody knows it's a movie. Yeah.
So with that being said, like the Dirties, the title, that group of people, are they just aggro assholes, or did you have to kind of direct them?
It's a mix.
Bit? Yeah.
It's a mix. So sometimes, like when we're in school, and we're getting bullied, like that's just happening in the environment because we would aggravate people, or sometimes the producers would say, like, go do this to a random student in the school. But then the bigger scenes, like those are staged. Like obviously the ending is very much set up, and the scenes of bullying right at the head are set up, but they're set up in a certain way. Like the Dirties know what's going on. In fact, that main guy who bullies me at the beginning of the film is the guy who came up with the whole idea for the movie.
Oh, okay.
But the people around us, like all the students around us, they have no idea what's about to happen. Like they have no clue, and so they're reacting, and the way what they see, they're seeing it for the first time, and they have no idea where it's going to go. So while I know, and Owen knows, and the bullies know what's about to happen, nobody else knows. And because it's just sort of happening randomly, and who knows, maybe I get punched in the face, or like who knows what's going to happen. Everybody's kind of on their feet, like what's going to happen this take, like what's going to happen this time. So.
But they know not to intervene, right? Like they're not like. Because you
No,
could say
no,
that
they
that's
do
like
anything.
a sociological thing. Like no one's bothering to step in and help out.
Well, like we didn't instruct people not to do
Yeah.
that.
Everybody was just like, okay, you're in school. You're in
The
school.
idea
I
was
mean,
just
and
like, no matter
sometimes
what happens, roll with it, react naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that nobody goes in and helps these kids, I mean, I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
I think if you go into a high school,
Yeah, no one wants to.
you just keep your head down.
But sometimes it would happen with people who had no idea it was even in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that old guy.
Yeah,
So
like-
we had extras background guys, our friends, like throwing rocks at these guys. And then
He didn't do much. He just kind of sat back and was kind of like.
He did ask if you needed help.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just confused. He's just confused the way most of the people were.
And he was even more confused when you go up to him afterwards and you're like, will you sign this?